Welcome back, my friends. Today we are creating the very last video for our November Awe and Wonder spread. And this page is completely inspired by one of you. She left such a beautiful comment on our community page under the Day 20 prompt. She wrote, "Notice a surprise? How do you do that intentionally?" And then her post continued with, "But then I got lucky and nature helped me. There was snow, which I hadn't expected. I was happy about the snow and that I had found my surprise." I love her snow moment. It stayed with me the entire week. But what I love even more is her question. How do you intentionally notice something that's supposed to be unplanned? That paradox stayed with me, and when I started filming, looking through these photos from a Christmas fair I visited with my daughter this week, the question was still on my mind. These photos do not show big dramatic memories, just small colorful fragments of an otherwise quite ordinary day. But speaking of surprises, among all these traditional Christmas stalls, stars, ornaments and angels was this quirky little stall selling handmade ceramic ghosts. Ghosts at a Christmas market. And tucked between them was these tiny Christmas tree ghosts, star on top and an evil eye in the middle. I remember laughing and thinking, well, you certainly weren't in the plan. It felt like my very own November snow moment. So I took a photo right there at the stall, holding up the Christmas tree ghost like a little treasure. Back home, I enlarged it even further to fussy-cut it now and use it as a decoration on this page. Moments like this, quirky, unexpected, full of personality, are exactly what Day 20 was pointing to. We can't manufacture surprise, but we can be present enough to let it find us. I'm not gluing anything down just yet, just moving things around lightly. This is my playful phase, the what-if moment where nothing has to be final. There's something so therapeutic about this stage for me. It's like meeting each element for the first time, letting it tell me what it wants instead of deciding for it. In therapy, we often call this not being attached to the outcome. It's the ability to stay curious instead of forcing clarity too soon. And I love how that mirrors this part of the process, just shifting pieces around, noticing how the energy of the page changes with the smallest movement. There's no rush here, no need to get it right. Sometimes we need to meet possibilities gently before we know where they belong, in art and honestly in life too. It's amazing how often people discover new emotional truths not through pushing, but through the same kind of soft experimentation. A little closer here, a little further there, until something clicks in the body and feels just right. So I'm using one of this month's free printable to make a journaling card. Fussy cutting it and backing it with some coffee dyed paper for that soft textile warmth. This card then will hold a tiny written reflection, maybe one sentence about my own November surprise, something small that reminds me to stay open so surprises can find me. As a therapist, I know that so much of healing is about creating space. Space for new experiences, space to be surprised by your own reactions, space for parts of you that haven't had room to breathe in a long time. And as I glue down this backing paper, I'm thinking about how we build containers in our emotional lives too. Structures like this journaling cards can become the holding place for something we didn't expect to discover. Like I discovered here that on the backside of my backing paper I had printed before. What a surprise! But not in a negative way. I can just change it, take it off and glue my journaling card on the so-called correct side here. And with that, enjoy the process again. I love the paper fibers, the texture, the color with the coffee dyed paper, and it helps me ground myself, ground my page, which is what allows the unexpected to feel safe enough to land in my life and surprise me. So I'm softening the corners and giving everything a bit of a vintage shadow with Distress Oxide. These repetitive movements are grounding to me. They slow the nervous system. They invite presence. There's something soothing about this rhythm, like cutting, inking, breathing, almost like tracing the edges of a memory before bringing it into the story. In therapy, we often talk about titration, moving gently between doing and pausing, focus and rest. This step feels like that to me, a gentle back and forth that lets the body settle. This is the kind of slowness that lets us actually notice joy when it wanders in, because joy doesn't usually appear in the big moment. It sneaks in through the soft and ordinary ones. I'm using a little stenciling now to give the page that soft, warm, antique feeling that we all love so much. And I love how the texture starts whispering its own atmosphere, like my memory is settling into the paper. And as I brush the ink through the stencil, I'm reminded of how experiences layer themselves inside of us. Sometimes memories don't arrive as fully formed images. They come as impressions, textures, colors, shadows. This is why creative work is so deeply therapeutic. It speaks the language of our nervous system. This subtle plotting, these faded patterns, they tell a story without shouting. And sometimes that's exactly what healing feels like quiet shift, gentle imprints, a softening rather than a breakthrough. And now everything starts to find its home. The ticket banner becomes a tuck spot at the top here. The photo can slide straight under it. And the third one becomes another tuck spot in the lower corner. And the picture of the ceramic ghost doll becomes a pocket on the right side of the page. And of course, our little Christmas tree ghost with the evil eye will get a special place on the page too. It's my unplayed delight of the month. There's something satisfying about this moment, committing, letting each piece settle, giving things a place to belong. In my therapy work, this is the moment when insight moves from the mind into the body, when an aha becomes lived, not just thought. Gluing something down is like choosing, yes, this belongs here. That kind of clarity, gently embodied clarity, is its own kind of relief. And now the snowflakes, another surprise. I found them tucked away in a drawer, and I was so delighted to find them. It felt right to include them, a gentle nod to our viewer who found her surprise in the snowfall. These tiny flakes add a kind of quiet magic to the page, I find. Each one like a small glimmer, like a reminder of how tiny moments accumulate into something meaningful. And I also love how adding these little details slows me down again. It gives me a chance to reflect on how connected we all are in this community. How your stories, your comments, your little sparks of delight become part of the creative process. And this page wouldn't exist without that shared moment of wonder. So, for the journaling card, I'm adding a little whale tail topper punched out of a shiny white and silver paper. For me it feels like frost or moonlit snow, subtle but really special. And as I attach it, I'm reminded of how important it is to add small touches of beauty to our own lives. Not because everything needs to be perfect, but because tiny gestures of care whisper to our nervous system, you are allowed to have softness here. It's amazing how much emotional regulation can come from the simplest act of beautifying something that matters to us. Here, for example, it's the stamping of a tiny gold and green star at the bottom, because we can. And then adding an eyelet on the top of the journaling card. And a soft green string, a quiet little celebration of the season. I love these combinations of small rituals, stamping, punching, threading, because it mirrors the way we create meaning in everyday life. Tiny actions repeated over time become the rhythm of how we care for ourselves. They are like anchor points for the nervous system, little reminders that stability can be chosen moment by moment. And finally, the magic step, silver and gold splatters, like snowfall or stardust or tiny sparks of wonder landing gently on the page. These splatters always feel like an exhale. The last brush stroke where everything comes together. And I love how they echo the theme of surprise. You don't quite know where each of the droplet will land. It's a controlled surrender, a gentle letting go that still feels safe. Maybe that's the heart of today's page, a combination of intention and openness, structure and closeness, planning and surprise. So, here is the final page, a soft ending to a month filled with awe, wonder, noticing, and so many shared reflections. And maybe that's the real insight. Surprise can't be planned, but it can be invited. It can be met with a kind of inner spaciousness, a willingness to pause long enough for delight to slip in. With little tree ghosts, with little snowflakes, with little stems. And before I close, a little reminder, our live stream for the November Mental Health Collage will be on Monday, 1st of December at 9 a.m. New Zealand time. This is the same time as last month for everyone outside New Zealand. I will pop a community post up with all the details. So, thank you for crafting with me, for thinking and feeling with me, and for being part of this gentle creative corner. I'm so glad you are here, and I am looking forward to seeing you on the 1st of December.